We also know that Hamas is backed by Iran. The Biden administration has been much more conciliatory towards Iran than the previous administration of this country. Are you communicating that message to the Biden administration? Are you concerned about the Biden administration's approach to Iran?
We're definitely very concerned about that approach, and we implored them ever since the elections, when the incoming Biden administration, in the weeks before they took over, we implored them, and we continue to implore them, to not return to this nuclear deal, which is very, very dangerous. It does not block Iran's path to the bomb. Frankly, if there was a deal on the table that would block Iran's path to the bomb, Israel would be the first country in the world to support it, because we have the most to gain from that, because Iran is a regime that vows and works to destroy the state of Israel. So any deal that would prevent them from having the weapons they need to achieve that goal would be embraced by Israel. The reason why we didn't support the deal in 2015 and why we oppose returning to that deal in 2021 is that that's not what the deal does. The deal puts restrictions on Iran's nuclear program for several years, and those restrictions are automatically removed. And then Iran doesn't have to sneak in or break into the nuclear club. They can just walk into the nuclear club. So it is a very, very big mistake to go back into the nuclear deal and to give up on the sanctions. The sanctions have been very important in ensuring security in the Middle East. It has starved the terrorist regime of Iran of hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars that would otherwise go to fuel their campaign of carnage and conquest in Iraq, in Syria, in Lebanon, in Yemen, in Gaza, and everywhere else in the region. You mentioned that Hamas is backed by Iran. Absolutely. Islamic Jihad is the other terror organization in Gaza that is firing rockets. They are a wholly owned subsidiary of Iran. Their officials boast that Iran is giving them not only the money, but the expertise to launch all these rockets at Israel. And Hamas is backed by Iran. So it is very important to stand with Israel against Hamas. And it's very important to not be conciliatory, to not pursue the path of appeasement with Iran. The pressure campaign against Iran was working. It is simply not the case to say that it wasn't working. It had starved the Iranian regime of so much money that would be used to fuel their terrorism. In addition to that, the decision of President Trump, which is now well over a year ago, to take out the leading terrorist in the world, Qasem Soleimani, also made the region safer. But it's important to remember, and I hope that the people who are watching will understand this, the maximum pressure campaign was not in place from the day that President Trump took office. It took him a year and a half to get out of the nuclear deal in May 2018. It took him an additional year before they removed all the waivers that allowed Iran to sell oil. So the maximum pressure campaign was really in place in May 2019. And it had about 18 months to work, and it has decimated the Iranian economy. And they were really choking this regime under the weight of those sanctions. But they had one hope. And everybody knows this. And our intel agencies know this, and American intel agencies know this. You know what their hope was? That help was on the way, that the U.S. would change their policy, that the U.S. would remove the sanctions. And you know why they hoped that? Because that's what the incoming Biden administration was telling them. They said we're going to go back into the nuclear deal. They said that we're going to remove the sanctions. So I think it would be a huge mistake to go back to the nuclear deal. We hope that the Biden administration will not make such a mistake. It will be bad for Israel's security. It will be bad for the security of your Arab partners in the region. And frankly, it will be bad for peace. Let's remember that a policy of confronting Iran and embracing Israel, you know what it got us? It got us 4 peace agreements with Arab states. If we want to actually advance peace in the region, we should continue those policies.